Before we get started, I wanted to show you what the finished product looks like in real life. So I actually got this keychain off of one that had a faux fur pom, and I ripped it off and used the pom-pom for a hat and then just used that. But today we are going to be using this assortment, and I got this from Walmart for really cheap in the craft section. And it's got a bunch of different findings, but I'm going to be using the largest keychain that they have in there. And if you don't have Walmart, this is where you can find this. I'm also going to be using these lobster clasps that are size 30mm. I got them from Walmart as well. I'm sure other craft stores carries them. And I just added this little beaded embellishment. In order to make this, if you would like to make it, I used size 10mm, size 14mm, and size 16mm beads to make this embellishment. And I'm also using a 6mm hook, and I'm using double strands of peaches and cream, which is just a worsted weight cotton. So put double strands together and make a slip knot, leaving yourself about 5 inches length of tail. You're going to want a longer tail because we got to weave it in and we want it to be secure. Begin by grabbing your keychain and putting it between your working yarn and your hook and just making a slip stitch. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. And now we're going to chain 1 to further secure. This chain 1 stitch will not count as a stitch. That's just to keep it on there better. Now you are going to chain 13. Once you have 13, I'm going to show you what it measures. It measures a little over 4 inches, and the reason I'm showing you is because you may choose to use a different yarn or hook. Now I'm going to turn and single crochet in the second chain from my hook. I am working into the back hump of the chain stitch. If you're not familiar with that, it's just the side that has the one stitch that pokes up. So I'm working into the back hump of the chain so that all my stitches look the same on both sides. It almost creates a reversible row of stitches so that the keychain looks about the same on both sides. When you are done with this row, you should have 12 single crochet. So remember that first chain does not count as a stitch, so don't try to work into it. Go ahead and stretch it out just a little bit to kind of help it hold its shape. And before you slip stitch, make sure that your beginning tail and knot is to the right. Now we are going to slip stitch into the keychain one more time and then chain 1 to secure. Again, that chain 1 there will not count as a stitch. Now we are going to chain 13. We are going to turn and single crochet in the second chain from your hook and in each stitch across. And again, I'm going into the back hump of the chain stitches. Essentially, we are just repeating what we did before. So when you are done with this row, you should have 12 single crochet. Give it a good tug. And again, make sure that your rows are right side up and then this beginning tail is down to the right. You want to make sure you're not twisting this as you go along. Slip stitch into the ring and chain 1 to secure. Again, that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We are going to do it one more time. So of course you are going to chain 13 and single crochet in the second chain from your hook and in each stitch across, going through the back hump of the chain stitches. Again, give it another tug and slip stitch back into the ring, and then chain 1 one last time to secure the stitch. Now we're going to fasten off, leaving yourself about the same amount of tail that you started with. And just go ahead and pull it on through. Just go ahead and weave these tails in. I use a clipboard for this process because I think it's easier. As you can see, it just kind of holds it so that way my braid is a little more even. So this is important. This last one over here needs to be on top for it to look the same all the way down. Now you're going to cut a piece of yarn that's about 6 to 8 inches long and thread it onto your yarn needle. Going through all 3 of those layers there, we are just going to tie a knot. It's that easy. Make sure that you have it looking how you want it, and simply tie these ends in a knot. Now we are going to be using those tails there later, so just set it aside. And as you probably know if you follow me, I use my fingers to make fringe, or you could use a piece of cardboard that's about 4 inches wide. I'm only going to wrap it about 7 times. You don't want this to be super thick. And just cut the bottoms to make tassel tails. And grab your project one more time. Open these tails that we left here from where we tied it. And we are just going to center these tassel tails and tie a knot around them to secure them. Now I use a comb to kind of help straighten these strands out. Now I cut a piece of yarn, double strands, that's about 12 inches long. And I'm going to show you, this is how I've started doing my tassel tails. To secure the tails, I just kind of wrap it around. I'm going around the area between the tassel and the braid. This is just to kind of hide it. This makes it look a little more like macrame. So now I'm going to thread the tails onto a yarn needle and hide them by taking them underneath where I just wrapped. I'm going to do it with both ends. Now, as you can see, it looks a little unsightly, so I'm going to fix that in a moment. So just cut those tails that you've hidden to the quick there. And I'm going to take a moment to show you how I just sort of make it look better. I don't really have a way to explain it, so I'm just going to let you watch me. I'm going to comb the ends one more time. And then I'm just going to cut it. So we're nearly done. Now we're just going to add this little embellishment on the side. So I take a single strand this time, and it's probably about 6 inches long, maybe 8. And going from front to back, we are going to tie a lark's knot. So just take those ends and slide them through. This is how you would do fringe on a blanket, by the way. Now I'm going to thread my yarn onto my yarn needle and slide the beads going up the strands. I'm using the smallest size first to the largest size last. And I want it to hang about the level of about 2/3 of the way down from the top of the braid. So I'm just going to knot it off where I want it to end so that the beads don't slide off. And then I'm just going to cut the ends even. And that is it. Your braided keychain is done. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching.